Richard, as we know, all the adventures that Bilbo goes through in these three films, they're going to be in a book called There and Back Again. It's going to be given to Frodo, and Bilbo's going to tell all the stories to Frodo. With all the films, or with the series of films that you've made, A Hobbit here, if there's one experience that you could tell your family 20, 30 years down the line, what would it be?
I think one of the most memorable, well, there's two very memorable moments. One of them was our first kind of week on location when we were helicoptered to the top of a mountain, and I think it was in the prologue to the first film, and you see Thorin leading his people into exile, and as you know, I was standing on the peak of a mountain with the helicopter doing a 360-degree shot, and we were really in the wilderness, and we were left there all day with a few sandwiches in the bag, and it was, you don't get an experience like that on most film sets. But the other great moment for me was when we were shooting the barrel sequence from the second film, and we were in the Pelorus River, which had a fairly kind of strong current, and we were kind of up and down the river in these barrels for a few hours, and they built an amazing kind of platform by the side of the river so that they could film us, and that was a really kind of special location and a really great day for the dwarves because we were finally cool in water.
Oh, cool. And I guess it's helpful having material to really draw from to help you get a better sense of your character. If you could watch it with Mr. Tolkien and say there's a particular scene that we get this right, which one would it be?
I think it's probably not actually been aired yet, because it will probably be in the third film. But I'd like to, I think if I were to be sitting down next to him watching the movie with him, I'd probably be watching him more than the movie. I just would love to see his reactions. I'd love to see if we got the humour right. I think the song in the movie, the Misty Mountains song would very much appeal to him. Yeah, that's a really. I think we did have that in our minds the whole way through. I studied his biography and was always with my head in the book, so he was kind of there.
Okay. And one thing that the Hobbit films have on the Lord of the Rings trilogy is 3D. And it was very well used in Desolation of Smaug as well. Which scene in the Lord of the Rings trilogy would you have liked to have seen in 3D? And what's the scene in the upcoming Hobbit film that you're looking forward to audiences seeing in 3D?
I think it has to be the battles. I think the battle of maybe Helm's Deep, in 3D would have been pretty astonishing because there's so much kind of depth to where that location was. I think would be really exciting. And obviously for the Hobbit, I think the Battle of the Five Armies in 3D is going to be kind of second to none. I mean, it's something that Peter's incredibly passionate about. I mean, he's really into World War I and World War II kind of battle history, so I think he's going to put something quite phenomenal together.
I can't wait to see it. With this Hobbit films, you get into a return to your character, to building your character, which I guess for an actor must be quite cool. Is there any other character that you've played previously that you'd like to return to build on more?
That's a good one. I always had a real kind of passion for Lucas North in Spooks. I think there's something really interesting about a spy whose life is about concealment, and where is that real person? Who is the real person underneath? And that is infinitely fascinating because they lose themselves in the roles that they play because they're good actors. So, yeah, I think Lucas would probably be someone that I'd like to return to.
Okay. Now, you've mentioned in this interview there's going to be a lot of battles both in the third one and there's a few battles in the second one as well. I'm curious to know how much of those fighting skills do you retain after a film? I mean, essentially I'm asking, if you were to get into a scrap, would you be able to give that person the business?
You know what, I have to say with Thorin, the fight skill really was determined by the weapons that he uses, and Orcrist is such a specific weapon. The weight of the weapon and the way that it moved really determined how I was fighting throughout the story. And when he lost that weapon, I think he loses it at some point in the second film, it's taken from him by the elves. He ends up having to fight with something else, and it felt really alien. So in answer to that question, unless I got into a scrap and had Orcrist to hand, I think I'd be pretty useless.
Okay. And when I spoke to you last night, you were talking about how Peter Jackson was making up the Smaug sequence at the end of the second film as he went along. Because you know, when it's an adaptation from a book to film, there's going to be changes. If someone was going to make a film about Richard Armitage, would you like there to be a change to your life? And if so, what would it be?
God, did I say that he was making it up as he went along? I really don't think he was. You know, I think it felt like that, but I think he had every detail planned. He didn't always tell us that. It felt like he was winging it, but he wasn't. Which part of my life would I?
Well, if there was going to be a film about yourself,
yeah,
would you like there to be a change to your life? And if so, what would it be?
Would I like there to be a change?
If it's adapted?
Yeah, I would probably want it to be a Peter Jackson. I think it'd be a terribly boring film, I have to say, but I would definitely want it to be made up as it goes along. I would want it to be improvised, and you know, obviously somebody more heroic and better looking than I am playing me, and far more interesting. Far more interesting.
I play, of course.
You could do it. That would be.
We can make it work.
It would be such a boring film. It'd be like a 5-minute kind of snooze fest.
Now, I mean, this film is obviously a very big scale, very big effects, and I feel like when a director has a vision like that, it has to be matched to an extent by its actors. And you've got Into the Storm coming up as well, which has a lot of effects. How comfortable are you working with CGI now, and what was it about the director Stephen Quell's vision for Into the Storm that got you sold on it?
You know what, on Into the Storm, we really didn't work that much with a green screen. A lot of the stunts that he did were practical, so we were in the street on wires. They dropped an 18-wheeler truck from a crane in front of me. We used real water, we used real wind and rain. It was only the kind of plate shots that were green screen. But you know, working with Peter, where you're imagining creatures and entire sets that don't exist, it's just another skill. You know, you look at the artwork, you listen to his description, you engage your imagination, and it's amazing when you see it back, seeing whether what you've envisaged is as he's seen it, and it's kind of encouraging when it is. You know, although that dragon was like nothing I could possibly have imagined.
Cool. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to us. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.